How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another entry in sharing your stories. I know it's been a hot minute. I have been really focused on doing my vlogs and getting the channel going, so I'm sorry that I've been sort of neglecting this. But between that and, of course, all of my other responsibilities, stuff does tend to take a little bit of a back seat. I promise I'll have a couple more of these out to you guys, hopefully this coming week. This entry is going to be a special one, a little bit different. Better turn my volume off on my computer. I am connected to the internet, so I'll get my messages there. It's going to be a little different in the sense that it's just going to be two stories, and they're both from the same person. And the interesting thing about this is this subscriber, she has been around for quite a while. I think she's been around since the channel sort of took off last December. And when I say last December, I mean 2021. Regardless, she wrote in her story to share with the community. If you're new around here, the whole point of what I'm doing here is that subscribers from the Van Life Plus channel can send in their stories about their nomadic dreams, aspirations, realities, or even if they just want to share things about their life. And they send them in to me, and I will read them here for the rest of the community to hear. And the feedback has been really well received. I don't see myself stopping anytime soon. The only way I see myself stopping is if you all stop sending me your stories. So now that that is out of the way, she has sent in her story, and then she also sent in a fictional story that she has begun writing, and maybe we can give some feedback regarding that or her story. I haven't read either one of them. They've been in my inbox for a long time. So Nicole, my apologies for how long this has taken. I was trying to find a way to fit in her fictional story amongst all of the other ones, and because she hadn't sent me in her real life story, and then that popped into my inbox there, and that got my creative brain thinking, hey, maybe it's a good idea just to share both of her stories in one video. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to start with her real story. And without any further delays, let's get right into it. Hi, Stella. You ready for story time? Nicole writes in. She's known as Shiny Nickel Blades in the chat. If you see her, say hello. She writes in and says, Matt, after watching you read all those stories, I feel inspired to share mine. I hope it's not too long. When I was 15 years old, I met my soulmate. We were head over heels in love and did everything together. At 17, we had our first child and had 3 by the age of 22. At 24 years old, our relationship became rocky and he wanted to split up, so we did. 3 months later, I found him cold on his sister's living room couch with a 10-page letter, which told me to shine, while my mom and kids hear me screaming from the car. I suddenly went from stay-at-home mom to widow just like that. I had to be strong for my kids while figuring out how to take care of things on my own. Over the next 16 years, I attempted to date, but my kids are my top priority, and I never found anyone good enough for them. I worked jobs I hated and hours that kept me from seeing my kids just to keep the bills paid and food on the table. I had finally worked my way up to a good job with good pay, and things were going great. Then COVID hit and everything changed. Travel restrictions caused all of my work projects to be canceled, and I was helping at local stores just to stay working. I began to get stuck in my own head, thinking negative thoughts. At the same time, my middle child was secretly moving out to her boyfriend's. When I found out, I lost it. I had finally made something of myself for my kids, and they are leaving now. I never once got Christmas with them my way because their dad's mom basically owned me, and they are leaving now. I had this nice job that still kept me from seeing my kids, and they are leaving now. I felt like I wasted all that time trying to make them happy and do good for them, but forgot to make myself happy. I was on the first work project to start back up. I made it a full week, went home, then back to the project. That Monday night, I attempted suicide. When I woke up alive Tuesday morning, I called my mom and agreed to drive home. The drive was several hours, so I had more time to dwell in my negative thoughts. I kept driving past my exit and to the PCT trailhead. The Pacific Crest Trail is over 2,500 miles from Canada to Mexico. It is my dream to hike it someday. I decided I was going to get on the trail with no preparation or phone and not tell anyone. I pulled out my pack, shoved in everything I had in my van that I could use to live off of. I was basically already living out of my van for work, and started hiking. It was an amazing feeling until reality set in. I turned around and went home. I sent my youngest daughter to finish her senior year at my mom's, and I checked myself into a mental hospital. I ended up losing that job, big surprise, huh? Bills were stacking up and I was months behind on rent. With all of my kids being stable without me, I decided to get rid of everything and move into my van. I spent that first year completely alone. I adopted a St. Bernard and we spent most of our time in the woods. I shaved my head for a fresh start, started eating healthy, had many fires, got back into my old hobbies, learned new ones, stopped giving a shit, and most importantly, found myself. I had never really been alone in my life to do that. My daughter is in college now and doing well, and we talk regularly. This year, my son is going to be older than his dad ever was. You are inspiring and uplifting, and your positivity is something I look forward to these days. Thank you for being you. Signed, Shiny Nickel Blades. Well, thank you for sharing, Nicole. That is harrowing, to say the least, everything you went through, and that's what makes all of these stories so relatable. Everybody has their demons, dark places, but everybody seems to be finding the light sort of at the end of the tunnel. I totally get where you were coming from and being, heartbroken that your kids were leaving, but I think you already are focusing on this part. But the fact that you say in here that all of your kids are stable on their own. Yes, it's sad that they're leaving, but you must have done something right that they're able to do that. Your story sounds like one that would set those kids up for disaster way easier than success. And I think you have definitely given them success. So I'm glad you've sort of sorted things out in your head and you're feeling better about things. That is definitely the most important thing. And I'm glad you're part of this community. Now let's see what kind of story comes from that sort of torment and experience, shall we? I'm not making light of it, but they do say, I don't know what the saying is, but authors, people that go through the most, have the most artistic flair, or some such nonsense. Let's see if that story. So this can be a little bit longer. Remember now, this is from the mind of Nicole. She gives us a note at the beginning. She says, this is the beginning of a fiction book I've been writing forever. I would love to hear how it sounds out loud. You have a good reading voice. I would also love to hear what you think. Thanks. Well, we'll give it a shot, and we'll see, Nicole. It is summertime in a small town called Spanaway, where two sisters have nothing to do. School is out, their friends are away on vacation, and their mom is at work. So they are stuck with their 16-year-old brother as a babysitter. Alyssa and Hannah decide to play in the yard, making up a magical land. I am the princess of this land, Hannah sings with a passion as she dances around Alyssa. I can fly and put you under a spell by singing. She sings as she taps Alyssa on the head with the wand she got from their trip to the indoor water park. Hannah is 7 years old, and she has an imagination so large that it seems she really believes what she makes up. Hannah, you can't do that, Alyssa shouts as she quickly yanks Hannah's wand out of her hand. People can't fly. She is almost a teenager, so she is trying to be more mature and forgets to think magically like her little sister. Meanwhile, their brother Christopher is sitting on the porch texting his friend Kevin about Amanda, the girl who lives down the road that they both have a crush on. He breaks into the girls' conversation. Quit arguing it. If you can't get along, play together. If you can't get along and play together, then you can go clean your rooms. Okay, Alyssa agrees hesitantly. You can fly, but I can see through things and understand what the fairies are saying. She then gives the wand back to Hannah. They continue to play, making up their story throughout the day, while Christopher is still texting Kevin about the girl who lives down the road. Later that evening, all three of them are sitting in the living room watching TV, when they hear their mom's car crushing the gravel as she pulls into the driveway. Mom's home, they all shout excitedly. Mom, guess what we did today? Exclaims Hannah as she runs to give her mom a hug. Alyssa interrupts and adds boringly, yeah, we played Magical Fairyland. Hannah continues to tell her mom all about the magical land and all of their powers. Hannah can control things with her singing voice, and everyone in the land reports to her. Alyssa can communicate with the fairies and see enemies coming from far away. The fairies are their source of information about what is going on throughout the land and let them know what everyone is doing. They live in the trees of the forest and are so small that they see and hear a lot that most people do not. Hannah, the princess, lives in the rock castle on the east side of the forest, which the ants guard. Okay, you guys, it sounds like you had a fun time today, but now it's time to get ready for dinner, Mom says. I don't work tomorrow and your cousin is coming over, so think of something all of you want to do for the day. They all shout, swimming! They must stay out of the pool while their mom is at work, so that's the first thing they want to do when she has the day off. While Mom is in the kitchen cooking, the children are all in the bathroom washing up for dinner. I can't wait for Rose to come over tomorrow, Alyssa starts. She has a mermaid fin, and I want to try it out. I don't think she'll let you, Hannah warns. Rose loves mermaids and likes to pretend she is a real one. It's dinner time, Mom calls from the dining room. They all rush in and sit down at the table. Macaroni and cheese again, the children whine. I'm sorry, but it's all we can afford right now, Mom says sadly. It's okay, I love macaroni and cheese, Hannah says with a sweet smile. It kind of tastes like ribs if you pretend. Yeah, with barbecue sauce, Alyssa adds. And baked potatoes with all the toppings, Christopher says with a grin. Mom joins in too, and suddenly they are all eating a huge 5-course meal in their minds while enjoying their macaroni and cheese. You know, someday we'll be eating like that every night, Mom says wishfully. The next day, Rose shows up with her mermaid fin just as Christopher is heading out the door to Kevin's house up the hill. The girls get into their swimsuits and start to run outside. Not so fast, girls, Mom says as she stops them at the door. You forgot sunblock. They all start applying sunblock as Hannah tells Rose all about their magical land. Then Alyssa says, this is the magic fairy potion that gives us our powers. Then Rose adds, yeah, and it turns my legs into a fin. Hannah is getting so excited that everyone is getting into her imaginary land, so she adds, Rose, you can live in the creek on the other side of the forest. Okay, let's get into the water before my legs finish turning into a fin, Rose says impatiently. They all get into the pool and continue making up their imaginary land. Rose lets Alyssa try out her mermaid fin, saying the fairies gave her a temporary fin to see what it is like. They play in the pool all day until lunchtime. They get out for a picnic in the yard, then back in the pool until Rose needs to go home. I'm so glad you got to come over today, Rose, Alyssa says, and Rose replies, me too. I wish I didn't have to go home yet. Then Hannah asks her mom if Rose can come over again the following weekend. And Mom agrees. The week continues as normal. Mom goes to work and Christopher watches the girls, bored, as they make up details about their magical land. Midweek, Christopher decides to take the girls for a walk through the forest, so he has something to do besides just sit and watch them. Christopher calls Kevin to come with them, and they head to the forest. The girls start talking about their magical land even more now that they are in the forest where it takes place. They are getting more imaginative and coming up with new details. Christopher is getting annoyed at this point because he is tired of hearing about it every single day. He and Kevin start making fun of the girls. Hey, there's your prince, Hannah, Christopher laughs, pointing to a frog on the path. Yeah, go kiss it, Kevin adds. The girls roll their eyes as they continue walking east on the path towards the rock the kids like to climb, when an ant bites Christopher. He brushes it off, then Kevin yells, ouch, I got bit too. Then he brushes it off. Since they are not moving, more ants start crawling on their legs and start biting. Ouch, what the heck? They both yell, while jumping around, brushing the ants off. Meanwhile, the girls are both laughing. You shouldn't have made fun of us. Those are our guards. Whatever, that's just pretend, Christopher says madly. They get to the rock and start climbing, while the girls are at the bottom playing in the small rock pit that surrounds the big rock. Later that day, they are back at home eating dinner while planning the weekend with their cousin. I'm going to play Barbies with her, Hannah says. She doesn't play Barbies anymore, Alyssa says. Then Christopher excitedly says, I know, we will go to the forest again, and I can ask Mandy to come, to introduce her to Rose. Chris has a girlfriend, Alyssa and Hannah start chanting teasingly. I do not. Mom, tell him to stop, he says embarrassed. Girls, come on now, Mom replies. Okay, if everyone is finished, let's go brush our teeth and get ready for bed, she continues. The children all put their dishes away and brush their teeth. Mom starts a bubble bath for Hannah and she gets in. She loves to sing, especially in the bath, so she starts making up a song and singing it as she washes up. While washing her hair, she notices a bubble start to float up from the tub. Alyssa comes to tell her to hurry up, so she stops singing and she watches the bubble float back down into the tub. "Hurry up, Hannah," Alyssa tells her. When Alyssa leaves, she slowly starts singing again, watching curiously, and sees more bubbles floating up. With every different note that she sings, they seem to dance around in the air. To be continued, she writes. Well, these girls clearly have magical powers, trying to get ants to devour their brother and making bubble bath bubbles dance. That's very cool. I love seeing creative imagination at work. Nicole, you're doing really well. I'm not a critic about writing or stories. I think you're setting up a very relatable situation. And keep going with it. The worst thing you could possibly do is just stop writing. And I know sometimes that gets hard on the day-to-day stuff and whatnot. I've started and stopped writing stories many a times in my life, for sure. I used to love writing short stories when I was younger. Don't do that so much anymore. I'm a little bit busy creating visual stories, I would like to think, but this is great. The only thing, honestly, the only constructive thing I can give you, because like the story is your own, I can't even begin to chime in on that, is just your structure of writing when people speak, because I'm a big pain in the ass when it comes to stuff like this. You just need a new paragraph and an indent every time a new person starts talking. That would make it easier to read as well. Like grab any old book and just flip through there and see how they've structured it when a new character starts speaking, and then that'd make it a little bit easier to read. I found myself getting a little distracted by the massive blocks of text, but that doesn't have anything to do with the story that you are actually creating here. So thank you for sharing that with us, Nicole. If any of you guys have some feedback about the story or her personal story, please leave that feedback in the comments below. And this is not going to be a thing that I do normally going forward, you guys. Nicole, like I said, has been a huge supporter of the channel. When I say I'm not going to be doing this, like reading people's works, I don't know what the future holds, but this is a one-off special occasion for sure. But if you would like to share your story, please don't hesitate to do so. Send it on in to vanlifepluscontact@gmail.com, and I would be more than happy to read your story here on the channel. So until the next one, you guys, just go out there, be happy, be creative, be yourselves, most importantly, be positive, and I'll see you all in the next one.